Good morning. Here's what you missed over the last 25 hours. You had 26 videos worth catching up on, covering everything from AI supply chain attacks and massive funding rounds to electric vehicle market shifts and gaming industry battles. Let's dive right in. The big story today was a sophisticated supply chain attack that started with TanStack packages and spread like wildfire across hundreds of NPM packages before jumping into Python. Maximilian Schwarzmuller was notably serious about this one, emphasizing it's still ongoing and urging developers not to install any NPM or Python packages right now. The attack began May 11th, hitting TanStack query, router, and start within a 20-minute window before being contained. But here's the scary part. The malware was designed as a worm that steals credentials and uses them to spread to other packages. Anyone who installed TanStack during that window should consider their system compromised. The technical breakdown is fascinating and terrifying. Attackers exploited GitHub Actions through a pull request target vulnerability, poisoned shared caches, and stole NPM's trusted publishing tokens. Schwarzmuller noted these attacks are becoming more frequent thanks to AI making it easier to analyze dependencies for vulnerabilities. His recommendations were clear. Run development in virtual machines, stop storing raw secrets locally, and use package managers with security features like Bun's minimum release age configuration. Speaking of dramatic market events, Matthew Berman had everyone believing the AI bubble had popped when Anthropic lost $200 billion in valuation in just hours. But this wasn't a real crash. It was lawyers voiding unauthorized secondary share sales through SPVs. Berman was genuinely frustrated about wealth inequality throughout this one, noting how average investors are completely locked out of what he calls one of the biggest generational wealth creations in human history. He walked through the complex SPV structure that emerged around Anthropic shares, where employees' shares get passed through multiple intermediaries, each taking massive fees. The legal notice from Anthropic's lawyers listed red flags, including unsolicited contacts and cryptocurrency payment requests, naming unauthorized firms like Open Door Partners and Forge. Berman's main point hit hard. 600 Anthropic employees recently sold $6.6 billion in shares, averaging $11 million each. And these new millionaires are driving up San Francisco real estate, while regular people can't even invest in the companies creating that wealth. On a related note about AI company acquisitions, Theo was genuinely conflicted discussing Bun's acquisition by Anthropic, and the JavaScript runtime's controversial rewrite from Zig to Rust using AI agents. He came across as melancholy throughout, clearly torn between criticizing a project he deeply cares about and expressing legitimate concerns. The technical details are wild. This is a 960,000-line rewrite completed in just 6 days that passes 99.8% of Bun's existing test suite. But Theo highlighted a critical issue. The Rust rewrite contains 13,044 calls to unsafe code compared to UV's 73 unsafe calls across 350,000 lines, suggesting they're essentially writing C++ with Rust syntax rather than taking advantage of Rust's safety features. His core worry is about prioritization. If Bun currently has 10 issues affecting different use cases, and the Rust rewrite introduces 100 new issues, there's risk that non-Claude code problems will be deprioritized since Anthropic naturally focuses on their own product needs. Moving to a different kind of engineering debate, Lunjuk was genuinely frustrated, discussing what he sees as obvious engineering malpractice in the Rust rewrite community. He applied G.K. Chesterton's 1929 fence principle to software development, arguing that before removing any fence on your property, you must understand why it was built. Legacy utilities like GNU Core Utilities contain countless edge cases because they run on diverse systems in varied environments. When rewriters throw these away, they break any software, tools, or workflows that relied on those specific scenarios working correctly. Lunjuk emphasized this violates basic engineering logic. He referenced a recent admission from a core Rust rewrite developer who acknowledged dealing with an absurd number of edge cases they didn't understand. His frustration was palpable when noting that, after he criticized Ubuntu's decisions last year, they doubled down harder, accelerating timelines and committing more strongly to shipping incomplete rewrites. The AI tooling discussion continued with a fascinating debate about whether to use HTML instead of Markdown for communicating with AI agents. The AI Daily Brief host was genuinely excited about this, connecting a viral essay by Anthropic's Tariq Shihapar to broader workplace transformation. The essay argued for HTML's advantages: information density, visual clarity, ease of sharing, and two-way interaction capabilities. But critics pointed out token cost implications. HTML requires significantly more tokens than Markdown. The host's core thesis was compelling. This reflects a fundamental shift where knowledge workers aren't producing final outputs, but staging conditions for agents to produce outputs. He described spending significant time in liminal spaces, the in-between states where work gets set up for agents. Pre-AI, these were just transitional phases, but now they're where knowledge workers spend most of their time, managing the calibration between giving agents enough structure without over-constraining their capabilities. Speaking of AI agent capabilities, Nate Jones delivered an urgent analysis of the agentic commerce revolution that's breaking apart traditional online purchasing. He maintained an almost warning-like tone throughout, repeatedly emphasizing that somebody is going to be left holding the bag when agents handle real money without human oversight. 6 camps are fighting over 6 layers. OpenAI and Stripe launched the Agentic Commerce Protocol, while Shopify and Google countered with the Universal Commerce Protocol. The fundamental shift moves from, can the customer pay, to, how does everyone know the agent was allowed to act? Nate shared his personal experience using ChatGPT for major purchases, getting more complete responses than Google or Amazon. With ChatGPT's 900 million users, this represents a long-term existential threat to merchants who lose their ability to tell brand stories when assistants control discovery and presentation. On a completely different note, Microsoft developers' Agent Academy Live turned out to be a comprehensive historical overview of coffee rather than AI agent development. The presenter traced coffee's journey from the legendary Ethiopian goat herder Chaldee in the 9th century through the Arabian Peninsula, Europe's initial suspicion calling it the bitter invention of Satan, and Pope Clement VII's endorsement that enabled rapid European adoption. They highlighted the rise of coffee houses called cave cane as vibrant social centers and coffee's global expansion through European colonization, with the Dutch establishing plantations in Java and the Portuguese bringing it to Brazil. While not the expected AI content, it was a fascinating deep dive into how a simple discovery became a global commodity. Getting back to actual AI tooling, Microsoft demonstrated GitHub Copilot's modernization feature with a measured, professional approach that emphasized control over automation. The presenter was particularly emphatic about risk management, noting, the real risk isn't the tooling, the risk is making changes you didn't intend to make. The key insight is that Copilot creates editable task lists rather than automatic rewrites, allowing developers to add constraints and exclude specific changes. In their demo, they deliberately excluded Java and Spring upgrades and ran regression tests, with the most important result being that no files were changed, which they emphasized was the correct outcome. Copilot identified a failing test that was a pre-existing Mockito issue and flagged known CVEs in Spring versions, but explained these couldn't be fixed within the current constraints rather than attempting unsafe patches. Meanwhile, at GOTO 2025, Jones from New Relic walked through the dramatic evolution of AWS Lambda's developer experience from its basic 2014 console launch to today's sophisticated IDE-integrated tooling. He was particularly enthusiastic about serverless improvements, joking about wanting to do a mic drop when discussing step functions. His key message was that observability should start on day one rather than after problems arise, and he emphasized that serverless extends far beyond just Lambda functions to include Event Bridge, step functions, API gateway, and more. He highlighted how Lambda layers solve dependency management across multiple functions and how extensions enable third-party observability tools beyond CloudWatch. The modern workflow maintains the same basic steps, but with dramatically improved tooling, including remote debugging capabilities that allow real-time Lambda invocation testing directly from local IDEs. Shifting to desktop operating systems, Linus Tech Tips continued their Linux Challenge follow-up, with Linus clearly defensive but reflective about community criticism of his distro choices. The team documented real struggles with gaming, video codecs, and software compatibility. Linus's main frustration was with Pop! OS shipping Cosmic Desktop environment in beta without clear warnings. Discovering this required finding a random blog post from September 2025. Gaming issues included missing audio and video in pre-rendered cutscenes due to Proton lacking H.264 and H.265 codec licenses, requiring ProtonG as a solution. Luke had SMB mounting problems with Bazite, while Elijah successfully tested Khaki OS's robustness by deliberately uninstalling the entire Cinnamon desktop and switching to KDE Plasma in just 20 minutes. Linus provided a nuanced discussion of blame attribution, advocating for a no-blame mindset, where some things work and others don't, while emphasizing that honest user perspective evaluation is necessary for Linux to improve. In the 3D modeling space, Game From Scratch's Mike was genuinely surprised to be praising Autodesk for once with their new project Falcon browser-based app. This free tool uses kit bashing, assembling models from pre-made components rather than traditional modeling, making it potentially the easiest way for beginners to create hard surface 3D models. Mike demonstrated creating a simple car by dragging components like platforms, tires, and cockpits onto a canvas with automatic snapping. While he noted workflow issues like slow search loading and no organized categories, he was enthusiastic about the concept and workflow. The tool exports to SDL for 3D printing or USD for general 3D work, and he emphasized it specifically for hard surface modeling of static meshes. He compared it favorably to Kenny's Asset Forge, noting Project Falcon aims for more realistic results, while Asset Forge has a cartoon aesthetic. Moving to gaming platforms, SmartyRBX offered a pragmatic take on Roblox's stated crackdown on Brainrot games. Despite Roblox's public intentions, he argued these simple, meme-based games will persist because they're extremely profitable for both developers and Roblox itself. His evidence was compelling. Kick a Lucky Block, a brand new Brainrot game, already had around 1 million concurrent users and appeared on the front page. He explained that mobile gaming context drives this. Even older players choose simple games on phones because they want Candy Crush, not Skyrim or Elden Ring on their phone. From an economic perspective, he noted these games generate tens of millions in revenue, making it impossible for Roblox to eliminate them. He defended newer developers who rely on proven formats, arguing that expecting every developer to create completely novel games prevents them from actually completing and shipping projects. The Electric Viking was highly confident discussing the global electric bus revolution, contrasting massive adoption with hydrogen bus failures. He was particularly triumphant when rattling off statistics. Dubai ordering 735 new electric buses with 95% satisfaction rates, Hamburg reaching 40% electric fleet, Copenhagen achieving 100% conversion, and Europe hitting 56% electric bus market share in 2025, up from just 12% in 2019. Meanwhile, hydrogen projects are collapsing. Vienna sidelined 7 of 10 new hydrogen buses due to basic component failures, and Aberdeen decided to retire and sell its 25 hydrogen double-decker buses. His frustration with Australia's slow progress was palpable, noting they have only 1–2% electric bus fleet share despite favorable conditions like abundant solar power and over 50% renewable grid. He emphasized this transition is driven by economics rather than environmental sentiment, calling it an inflection point, where electric buses offer simplicity, lower operating costs, superior energy efficiency, and potential grid support through bidirectional charging. Speaking of electric vehicle developments, the Electric Viking was genuinely enthusiastic about Hyundai's new Ioniq V, a distinctively Lamborghini-inspired EV/EREV sedan with 800V fast charging. Sam Evans repeatedly emphasized how much he loves the design because it stands out from similar-looking EVs, calling it awesome for its uniqueness. The vehicle is built on Hyundai's eGMP platform, measures 4.9 meters long and 1.9 meters wide, and features a massive 27-inch ultra-thin 4K display. It will be available in both full EV and extended-range electric vehicle configurations with technology from partners including Momenta, Qualcomm, CATL, Beidou, and Volcano Engine. Evans analyzed Hyundai's broader China strategy of manufacturing there for global export, drawing parallels to Tesla's successful model, where 60% of global sales in the first 4 months came from China. He positioned this as smart strategy given Hyundai's weak China performance. Only 9,000 vehicles sold in March 2026, down 17.6% year-over-year. The automotive discussion took a darker turn when the electric Viking examined America's car debt crisis, which has hit $1.68 trillion. Sam Evans showed genuine concern and disbelief throughout, particularly when emphasizing that 20% of borrowers now pay $1,000 plus monthly for auto loans. The crisis stems from disappearing affordable vehicles. Only 4 models under $25,000 exist today versus 36 in 2017, while China offers around 100 models under $10,000. Evans attributed this to protectionist policies and tariffs that have added $14,000 to car prices in under a decade, while average incomes failed to keep pace. He was particularly incredulous about low-income borrowers carrying loan balances nearly $4,000 higher than wealthy households, calling it bizarre since it should be the other way around. The situation forces families to cut spending on necessities, with interest rates averaging 7% and borrowers with credit scores below 580 facing rates around 18%. Extended loan terms of 7 years or longer now represent 23% of financed purchases, creating underwater situations where payments exceed the car's value. The automotive industry struggles continued with Honda's dramatic retreat from electric vehicles. The electric Viking was highly critical, predicting Honda will be the next Nissan, after canceling their $11 billion Canadian EV and battery factory, along with most electric vehicle models. This facility was planned for 240,000 vehicle capacity and 36 gigawatt-hours of battery production annually, with first vehicles expected in early 2027. Sam Evans estimated Honda has canceled 90% of their EV plans, including US EV plans, the Honda Zero Series, and Acura RSX. He questioned Honda's logic given the industry's move to EV only by 2035. Especially when competitors like Tesla are selling Model 3 premium versions for $29,000 in Canada, while Geely and BYD establish strong presences there. Evans noted the irony that Honda's factory was canceled just as competitive pressure intensified, with the company losing about $1 billion in their last financial year. He also covered Ford CEO Jim Farley's comments that Americans wanting to beat Chinese carmakers shouldn't look to Tesla, but rather BYD, which has the best cost structure and manufacturing expertise, though BYD's first quarter profit fell 55% year-over-year. On a more positive EV note, the electric Viking was vindicated about his months-long advice to wait for BYD's Atto 3 Evo, which will arrive in Australia within 3 months. He expressed some frustration that approximately 2,000 people had ignored his warnings and bought the current, pretty average, Atto 3. The improvements are dramatic rather than incremental. He characterized it as jumping from version 1 to version 4. Key upgrades include a shift from front-wheel to rear-wheel drive, 80 kW more power, 230 kW versus 150 kW. Range increasing from 420 km to 510 km, thanks to the new Blade battery too, with a single 75 kWh option. And DC charging improving to 220 kW, enabling 10-80% charges in 25 minutes versus the current 40-45 minutes. Storage increases by 160 liters total, with 50L more boot space, plus a new 110L frunk, while suspension upgrades from 4-link to 5-link rear setup. The all-wheel drive version produces 330 kW and 560 Nm, achieving 0-100 km/h in 3.9 seconds. Evans praised the move to steering column gear selection and standard 18-inch wheels, positioning this as a really good car that validates those who waited. Wrapping up the EV coverage, the electric Viking provided a positive update on his insurance claim dispute with Budget Direct. Sam Evans came across as genuinely relieved and grateful, noting this came during an extremely challenging personal period with his wife having stent surgery and his 9-year-old son scheduled for surgery for adenoids, tonsils, nasal blockage, and ear grommets. Budget Direct contacted him after his original video gained over 2,000 comments, agreeing to cover his Xpeng G6 repair costs and refund his $1,100 excess payment. He acknowledged receiving emails from viewers who experienced similar insurance cancellations across multiple companies, admitting he may have been wrong to single out Budget Direct when other insurers were taking similar actions with electric vehicle owners. Evans discussed the broader context of Xpeng parts supply issues in Australia, expressing optimism that the situation might improve within 6 months as Xpeng establishes better parts support and true EV increases stock availability. In gaming industry news, Yang Ye was notably confident about the Stop Killing Games movement's momentum, declaring it feels unstoppable. The movement continues gaining legislative support in Europe and California, requiring publishers to provide functional game preservation, full refunds, or protection when shutting down games customers paid for. Yang Ye became increasingly frustrated discussing the Entertainment Software Association's opposition, calling their arguments bullshit and fear-mongering. The ESA argued games are licensed rather than sold, but Yang Ye countered that laws can change. The point is improving consumer protection. When the ESA claimed technical impossibility of offline versions, he cited the Crew 2's recent addition of offline modes after Stop Killing Games pressure as proof it's technically possible. The movement's response was simple. If a company sells you a paid digital game, then later shuts down the services needed for the game's ordinary use, it needs to give notice and provide a remedy, a playable version, a patch, or a refund. Yang Ye concluded the ESA's recycled arguments show they're running out of ammunition against universally beneficial consumer protections. Finally, Level 1 Techs wrapped up with a comprehensive review of a premium Falcon Northwest Fragbox featuring AMD's dual 3D Vcache 9950X 3D2 CPU and RTX 5090 GPU. The presenter was enthusiastic about the high-end hardware while maintaining realistic perspective on value. He praised Falcon Northwest's build quality, particularly the exceptional GPU mounting system and modular design. The 9950X 3D2 solves traditional scheduling issues by having 3D Vcache on all cores across both chiplets, though performance anomalies can still occur when games split across chiplets. Gaming benchmarks at multiple resolutions showed clear advantages over previous chips, particularly in titles like Borderlands 4 and Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Productivity benchmarks in Blender demonstrated significant leads due to more cache and higher wattage limits. The system runs quietly at 3537 dB maximum despite having a 600-watt GPU, with temperatures reaching 95 degrees C under Blender, but staying below 70 degrees C during gaming. The video concluded with details about a long-term testing experiment where the Fragbox will be given to an established Level 1 Techs Forum member for real-world reliability data collection. That wraps up your comprehensive catch-up on the last 25 hours. From supply chain attacks to AI funding frenzies, electric vehicle market shifts to gaming industry battles, it's been a packed day across the tech landscape. Stay safe out there, especially with those NPM packages.